with his mother and grandfather. The 17-year-old, who was aged 11 when he went missing, has returned from France. Rishi Sunak says he wants the UK to lead a conversation about reworking policy concerning illegal immigration across Europe. The Prime Minister's been addressing a conference in Rome, saying there needs to be a common and credible deterrent, even if it means doing things differently. Jacqueline McKenzie, an expert on immigration and asylum law, has been talking to LBC.
Effectively, he's saying that Britain should take part and possibly lead in a conversation to turn back some of the rights of asylum seekers and refugees that come from international conventions, effectively trying to rip up those conventions or take the UK out of them.
Vladimir Putin has been officially nominated to run in the 2024 Russian presidential election as an independent candidate. The nomination, by a group of at least 500 supporters, is mandatory under Russian election law for people not running on a party ticket. One of the original members of the rock band AC/DC, the drummer Colin Burgess, has died at the age of 77. The band has confirmed the news on its social media accounts, but no cause of death has been given. And England's cricketers are still in their T20 series away at the West Indies after a dramatic 7-wicket victory in Grenada. They trail 2-1 in the 5-match contest with 2 games remaining. LBC weather, cloudy and windy with persistent heavy rain in western Scotland, light rain on western hills further south, and an overnight low of 6 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Tim Daly.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello. Well, let's get back to it.
I see that there's no texts and tweets and such from last night. Did we get through all of them? That's never happened before. Blimey. Either I have been doing very well or the audience has run out of things to say. One of the two. But from tonight, just message coming in, just great at your job. Yeah. Anybody believe that?
No.
From today, Darryl texts, during the Commons debate on the Rwanda scheme, Tory MP for Don Valley, Nick Fletcher, said, quote, Doncaster is full. Well, it's full of something. He said, given this, anyone planning to visit Doncaster anytime soon will need to make alternative arrangements as they ain't getting past the boundary line. Chock-a-block in there. Yeah, squeezed in like sardines they are. Now, here's something you wouldn't want to swim in. More than 200 tankers of raw sewage. Now, just picture that in your mind. You got a tanker in your mind? Right. Now, think of 200 of them. And now think of them filled with sewage.
Disgusting.
200 tankers of raw sewage. And by the way, what would a tanker that is carrying raw sewage, what would their next load be? Milk? I mean, my personal preference would be for that tanker to be completely taken out of business. It was like, crushed into a tiny cube and then set fire to and launched into space and never seen again by the human eye. But that's not what happens to those things, is it? They are repurposed for other loads. Oh, let me rephrase that. For other things, not loads. Totally the wrong word. But they'd be repurposed for something else. Like, what could you possibly put in a tanker after it had carried raw sewage? I mean, petrol? No. Because can you imagine the smell coming out the back of your car? So what could it possibly be other than it's now permanently a receptacle for raw sewage? Forever. But there can't be a big market for that, you wouldn't think. I would like to know what happened to those 200 tankers, because they can't cost a small amount of money. A tanker must be, well, I have absolutely no idea, so I'll make it up. A tanker costs £100,000. And you believe that?
Yes.
Yeah, I can believe that. So 200 tankers costing £100,000 each is, let's see now, it's a 2 plus 0 and drop the 1 is, I don't know, it's just a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So they aren't going to just throw them away. They'll probably give them a bit of a wipe down and see how they do. Anyway, so you've got that in your mind, right? 200 tankers, raw sewage. Have you got a picture of raw sewage in your mind? Mm-hmm. They were driven to a town in Surrey, if you please.
What?
Yeah. Driven to a town in Surrey and left there for, guess how long? I bet my glamorous assistant can't guess. Guess how long?
Months.
How many?
3.
No, incorrect. You failed this test. They were left there for 6 months. What? 200 tankers of raw sewage were driven to a Surrey town and left there for 6 months. But it gets worse than that. Because you're thinking that 200 tankers, well, they'll be sealed. I mean, they'll probably have a cork in the top but like a twisty tie, something like that. When I say cork, I'm not suggesting that you pop it open like a bottle of champagne. But, there would have to be some sort of thing to stop it, slopping over the side as it travels down the motorway. Because you wouldn't want to lose any of that precious cargo. But it gets much worse than that. And I'll come to that in a minute. And of all the companies in the world, which do you think is most responsible for this? Or is solely responsible for this? It is Thames Water. Of course it is. Thames Water has apologised. They said,
I am very sorry that I screwed up.
Totally screwed up.
I mean, I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I'm sorry.
They're very sorry. They've apologised. But they have refused a request from Surrey councillors to make a financial acknowledgement to the community by reducing bills for 11,000 people. Because, that would involve them giving over money. So that's out. The crisis in the treatment capacity began last February when Hogsmill, one of the main Thames Water treatment works, broke down, forcing staff to move thousands of cubic metres of raw sewage at speed. They were they formed like a conga line of people with buckets, and they moved it at speed. And they deposited the contents into tanks in Camberley, wherever that is, because apparently there was no other storage capacity across its whole estate. Storage tanks at Woking were already full from a previous crisis.
What?
Yeah. And if you didn't know any better, you might think that selling off our water, the most precious of our resources, to a bunch of foreigners intent on maximising their profits wasn't a very good idea.
Yeah.
Thames Water told councillors in Surrey it had no choice. Either they moved the sewage to storage tanks in Camberley, emptied it into rivers, causing massive pollution, or left it in tankers on the roadside, which could have, and I am not making this up, exploded. Causing, it says here in The Guardian, with a great understatement, causing a major national incident. Yeah, that's right. And a pretty alarming local one, too. And I bet the residents of Camberley are having a major incident just thinking about all that explosive sewage just sitting there ready to blow up. Evidence of the crisis across Thames Water's whole region comes as MPs have recalled the Chief Executive Officer to answer questions on Tuesday on the company's financial situation. They're going to quiz them. They'll say. Auditors have warned the parent company of Thames Water it could run out of money by April if shareholders do not inject more cash. And the shareholders have a wizard idea. They just thought this idea up out of thin air. I'll run it by you, see how you feel. Instead of the shareholders putting up cash, how about they keep the cash they've already taken out of the company and they get the customers to pay higher bills? How does that sound? In the incident which took place this year, 6,000 cubic metres of raw sewage sludge. Oh, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, they added the word sludge. Raw sewage sludge was left in an open tank for 6 months without being treated during the hottest summer on record. Because they couldn't seal the tanks because, you remember, it might explode. So they just poured it into an open tank in a town in Surrey and they left it there concentrating itself under the hot sun during the hottest summer in history. Odour suppression was put in place, but only during the day. So residents there were careful not to open their windows in the evening. But as it was the hottest summer in history, that's the one thing that you really absolutely and totally want to do, but you couldn't. Odour suppression. What does that mean? Going around with a bottle of Chanel No. 5 and giving it a squirt. Odour suppression was put in place, but only during the day and did not cover and it didn't cover the whole tank. So just a bit of the tank had odour suppression, but not all of it. Which is like, it's like the smoking section of a cinema, for those old enough to remember, which totally worked because the smoke that people smoking produced only ever stayed over the smoking section and didn't stink the whole blooming place out. Oh, no, that's right. I've got that wrong. It did. But, you know, that was fresh, delicious cigarette smoke. Can you imagine what a vast open tank of raw sewage cooking in the summer sun would smell like? I bet it smelled a bit nutty. a bit of an odoriferous whiff, I bet.
Correct.
Yeah. Thames Water was called to explain why it had decided to move so much sewage to the town. In evidence, a manager said they had no choice. They said, we've spent all the money we made on comics and sweets, so how are we supposed to fix this? They didn't say that. They actually said the risk that we had if we didn't move that sludge was pollution of the waterways and potentially 30 to 40 trucks parked on the motorway in the middle of summer, which could have exploded. Exploding hot sewage. Which sounds like a Frank Zappa album.
Rock and roll!
Doesn't it? Exploding Hot Sewage by Frank Zappa and the Mothers. The Liberal Democrat-led council is demanding compensation. And the company said...
No.
Councillor Robb, out of the Liberal Democrat-led council, said Thames Water had offered and then withdrawn an offer of 60 grand for a community playground as a conciliatory gesture. Wow. They offered it and then withdrew it. 60 grand. Just the change that they found in the ashtray of one of those tankers. Councillor Robb, out of the local council, said they left this sewage in an open tank until August and only used odour suppression control in the daytime. He said moving these tankers of sewage to Camberley to be stored saved the company millions in terms of fines they would have faced if they polluted the waterways and it stopped a potentially major national incident of tankers exploding by the roadside. Oh, my God. Exploding tankers of raw sewage. That isn't happening in some third world country in the middle of Africa. It's happening here in this country, which is being run by...
this government.
Exactly, Mr. Speaker. Councillor Rob said it clearly saved Thames Water in material terms potentially millions of pounds, if not tens of millions. We believe these 11,000 residents should be compensated by being offered 12 months complimentary water bills as a gesture of goodwill. Yeah. But would you drink that water? I mean, you could drink it, but just don't get any on your shoes. The Hogsmill Treatment Works in Surbiton in Surrey has had frequent problems. You'll be stunned to learn. In 2021, Thames Water was fined £4 million after a catastrophic incident at the works when untreated sewage escaped from sewers below London into a park and a river. James Bentley, the operations director for Thames Water, told councillors, "We didn't get everything right." That's what he said. We didn't get everything right. He said that. Which separates Thames Water from the regime under Boris Johnson, which got all the big calls right. Ain't that right, Bodge?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. A Thames Water spokesmodel said, "We apologise for the impact this emergency storage of sludge has had on the residents," and blah, blah, blah. God. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Hot air. HOTAIR.
The smell of hot air wafting from the sewage all over your face. 0345 6060 973. Adam texts, "I've just heard that a member of AC/DC has died. When did you and Carol talk about him on your podcast?"
What?
Yeah, we have a tendency of killing people by talking about them on our podcast. We actually killed Charlie Watts out of the Rolling Stones. Sorry about that, but it's all our fault. He was doing just fine before we started talking about him on our podcast. And I think we started talking about him because I found a picture of him and his wife which looked like the spitting image of me and Carol in about 10 or 15 years' time. I should repost that, actually, because it's just hilarious. It does look like me and her, but, you know, a little bit closer to the end of life's conveyor belt. And so we were having fun about that, and pretty much the next week, Charlie Watts was dead, for which I apologise.
I am very sorry.
Sorry, I screwed up. Yeah, okay. No, we didn't. I talked about AC/DC on this show. I've been pointing everybody in the direction of the live concert that they did at River Plate in Argentina, which is the most astonishing thing. It could be the most astonishing concert I've ever seen in my life. Not necessarily for the band, who are great, albeit that they look like about 200 years old. But the audience, you've never seen anything like it. Now, I'll stop going on about it, because if you haven't looked it up yet, then you're not interested. But I have been talking about AC/DC, and now the drummer's dead, for which I apologise.
I am very
sorry. I screwed up, yeah. Was it this photo, says my glamorous assistant next door? Well, I don't know. Let's just have a little peek, shall we? No, it's brought up pictures of skeletons. No, offensive. Tom says, "Can you mock Mog's voice more often, please? My brother absolutely hates it because he idolises Mog, but I love it," says Tom. No, it's not a request show, Tom. I'll do it later. Let's have Kensington, Hassan.
Yeah, hi. Nick,
Yes,
you have
sir.
never appreciated Suella Braverman.
No, I
and
did
she
not.
has just won a very coveted award today.
Yes, I saw that.
About I don't know when I'm supposed to say it, but I think you.
Yeah, don't say it. No, don't say it. Yeah.
So she became. She's the first D of the year. Of the year.
I know.
Which is a remarkable achievement.
It is. It really is.
First woman to do that.
That's right.
And not even the great Margaret Thatcher.
No.
Or the incredible Liz Truss could achieve anything comparable.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you don't appreciate people when they're with you, and then you realize how great they were once they're gone.
That is completely right. Yeah.
But I think so that I think really brought a cheer to my life. That
and a tear to your eye.
Really appreciates her.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Hassan. Good work. Keep your eyes peeled. 0345 6060 973, and it couldn't have happened to a more deserving candidate. That is true. Although I've seen that kind of thing before, and I've seen it done better than that. I mean, it was a bit... It could have been better. But, apropos. Phil says, how do you think Vlad the Impaler... Well, I would say Vlad the Insaner. How do you think I would say Vlad the Insaner, but then I would have to avoid doorknobs and tea and windows. How do you think Vlad the Insaner will do in the Russian election? His catchy slogan, vote for me if you want to live, sounds like a winner to me. Come with me if you want to live. Adam says, why can't this store all this sewage in the Houses of Parliament? It's already full of it. Well, that's just offensive. And it's probably illegal for you to even think that, Adam. Let's have Bath. Hello, John.
Hey.
I feel like I need a bath after the first 15 minutes of this show.
Oh, well, I know. I feel the same. But what I would say is, you were talking about Boris and what's going on. He's only doing his best.
Alarmingly, I think that's probably right. This is his best. This is him doing his best. Yeah.
And that's what's the most horrific thing.
It is.
That it is. But, in terms of your tankers of sewage... once they decommission them, I think they should be made into dormitories for the Conservative Party.
Yes. Handy little houselets. Exactly right.
I think so. Mm-hmm. I think because it will save the taxpayers a fortune.
That's right.
And, I can't think of anything better, really.
No, I can't think of a better use for an ex-tanker which was used to transport raw sewage, than to become we could actually, as members of the public, chip in. We could offer this to them at zero cost to your Conservative MP, and just present it as a sort of gift. We could put a bow on it.
But that's the thing, Nick, because they always talk about it being, I got into this because it's a vocation. Well, here we are.
There you go.
We're going to give you, we're going to give you a house,
yes.
But it's in this ex-sewage boat.
Yeah.
Fill your boots.
Exactly, and you can park it wherever you like, just as long as it's nowhere near where I live. All right, thanks a lot, John. We're just being generous. We're just trying to help. Are we helping yet?
No.
Jim says, why is the sewage raw as opposed to cooked? Well, that's a good question. And what's the recipe for cooked sewage, by the way? Do you have to pre-boil it before you roast it? Martin says, in these festive times, we should remember Mary and Joseph's flights to Bethlehem. Although not explicitly written in the Holy Scriptures, I wager that some residents of Bethlehem would have demanded to stop the donkeys.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focusing on stopping the boats. And I'm relentlessly focused on stopping the boats. That's one of my 5 priorities. Stopping the boats.
Stopping the boats.
People know that I'm working
night and day
to stop the boats.
Sure you are. He keeps telling us he's working night and day. No, you're not. Liar! Like he's a robot. Somebody needs to switch him off and on again. Working night and day. It's our number one priority. Stop the donkeys. I did not see that coming. Good one, Martin. A listener with material.
Oh, no.
I don't normally appreciate that, but in this one instance, I'll let that one go. Stop the donkeys. Funny, no? Tom says, I've heard that Rishi Sunak is considering allowing Thames Water to raise bills by 40% to pay for a debt repayment due in April 24. Over the years, Thames Water has paid £7.2 billion to shareholders. This just isn't fair. Well, that seems like a pretty small and insignificant word to describe it, doesn't it? Fair? I have detailed files. But the news is charging up upon us, so I haven't got time to lay those on you now. But prepare yourself, because it's about to get much, much worse. John says Smug has... you know Smug?
I don't know anything.
Smug has just announced the formation of the Beanpole faction. Only supernaturally thin people need apply. Well, I don't know who it was, because I went to Parliament on Wednesday in order to, show my appreciation. And I saw Prime Minister's questions, and there was some bloke on the... he wasn't on the bench where Titchy Suit Size sits. You wouldn't believe the amount of this sort of dance that goes on when they're getting packed in there. I mean, normally it's totally empty, apart from one bloke or woman who's on their feet, who's speaking to a completely empty room. But for Prime Minister's questions, they all squeeze in there. And beforehand, they gradually start to fill in, and there's this, I don't know, there's a sort of, an enormous amount of bum wiggling going on. Because in benches where you wouldn't think that there was room, people wiggle themselves in from a standing position. They just present their bottom to whoever happens to be sitting there and just, like, slowly collapse onto them, forcing them to move. I think it was Oliver Dowden who I spied doing the very thing that I am describing. I'll have to look him up, actually, make sure. Yeah, that's him. That's him. Yeah, I believe that just before Titchy came out, they all went. He tried to insert his bottom in between Kemi Badenoch and somebody else, where there was not room for his bottom to go. And there was a bit of a... It was kind of like one of those David Attenborough documentaries, like with penguins or pelicans, where they land where it's really, really crowded, and then they start snapping at each other, so that the penguin or the pelican can get its bottom down on where it wants to build its nest. That's what it looked like to me. Look at these magnificent creatures wobbling their bottoms at each other. And then when Titchy comes out, then suddenly this space just appears where his microscopically thin form would sit, which was way more than he actually needed. And everybody else was, I don't know, it was like their spleens were being squeezed out of their mouths. They were so chock-a-block in there. I can't remember what I was talking about this now. But no doubt I will, during the course of this news break, and I'll go, that's going to be a very, very amusing point. Never mind. I suppose we just can't have amusing things. 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30. The news headlines for Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Right, so what are we doing?
Gibbon, we are just thinking about which rock and roller to talk about on our podcast next, and we're making a list of who we'd like to die. How about Ted Nugent? Chris says, how about the shareholders stop taking money out of the water companies and the money goes on new infrastructure, or is that just a stupid idea? Yes, it is a stupid idea, Chris. I don't know why you would even think that, let alone say it out loud. Kent. Hello, John. John? Kent. Hello, John. Time's running out, John. Yes?
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, these people in
Surrey, right?
People in Surrey.
They voted Tory, didn't they?
They did.
Well, that's what they get there, isn't it?
Yes.
No, be serious.
Yes.
You know, I live in Kent now, right? You know, I'm a Kent boy, but I'm originally from Glasgow.
No way.
And I
Really?
look around these people, aye. But I look around all these people in South East England, and I think to myself, what's wrong with you guys?
Yes, that's what I think too, but not in that
What is
accent.
wrong with you, man?
Aye.
Can you not see
What's
what's
wrong
going
with
on
you?
in this country?
I know.
Can you not see what's going on in this stupid bloody country? Sorry for the language.
Yeah.
Nick,
It's a bit of
can you see
Glaswegian
what's going
language
on here?
using there, yes. I
Yeah.
know, I feel your pain. They voted Conservative over and over and over again. It's practically every inch of Surrey is infested with Conservative politicians. You are quite correct in every respect. Thanks a lot, John. It's getting very, very emotional. But, you know, that's from living in Kent. I can understand that. Crazy Kwarteng, Chris Grayling, Michael Gove.
Major capital letters, big news story.
Crispin Blunt. On and on and on it goes. Yeah, as it has been explained to me maybe 1,000 times at great volume, everybody knew what they were voting for at the last election, so the good people of Surrey must have hoped, with their fingers crossed, that they would be delivered vast amounts of raw sewage to bake in the summer sun. And that is precisely what they got.
Thank you.
They appreciate it hugely. Chris says a solution for the 200 tankers of raw sewage, it could be recycled to make tomorrow's issue of the Daily Mail. No processing needed. I'll talk about the papers in a while because of that whole Hazza and Sparkles thing. Ahmed says Smug was talking on his show the other day about how Elon Musk has a robot that can boil a perfect egg for him. I bet that's nothing new to him. He probably has his nanny do it for him anyway. Yeah, I think we have to stop thinking of him as a charming Dickensian throwback and more the nasty piece of work he most certainly is. Don't encourage them, in other words. Wembley Park, Christoph.
Oh, I only heard the word park. Is it really me?
Wembley Park, Christoph.
Ah, yeah, heard everything there. Oh, God, Nick, because it's so long since I wanted to call and since I got through so much, I want to say, but the main thing is, I had obviously a very rich set of formative years. My formative years were very rich because...
What do you mean by rich?
Well, diverse maybe is a better word.
Right.
Well, we had a school trip to our local sewage treatment works.
Ah.
And we also had a school trip to Parliament.
And which smelt better?
Well, it's funny you should say that. You know, actually, the sewage stuff, the longer you leave it, the less bad it starts to smell.
I'm not sure that that's actually true.
No, maybe leave it is the wrong word, but, you know, the thing that most impressed me about the treatment works was the massive 700 kilowatt pumps that were, you know, massive motors that were pumping this stuff around.
Yeah.
And it at the beginning of the tour, the smell wasn't really that nice. But kind of towards the end, when the sewage has been through, it's been they put into digestion tanks and stuff like that. Where the
could you describe it without saying digestion tanks?
Well, that's what they call it. They call them digesters, I think.
Oh.
And then it flows out into little flat ponds, shallow ponds.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time it gets there, it's, you know, the smell isn't really not that unpleasant.
Well, yeah, that's because it's covered in chemicals.
No, the bacteria, and I think, I don't know what they do with the methane, but the digesters just use the natural bacteria.
Yeah, the thing that they do with the methane is blame the dog.
I think then they sort of send it to Richard Branson's biofuel jets.
I have no idea, and I have zero interest in finding out.
But I want to say two more things, if you'll allow.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the reason why that stuff smells less the more it gets processed is because they take all the stuff that smells out, or they cover up the smell with something else. If it just sat there in an open tank in the hot summer sun, it would smell huge, believe me.
Yeah, but all the chemical reactions would be going on, and it would be being digested. I don't know, because the only way really to know what it was like was if you were there.
Yes.
So it would be great if someone.
That's true. And what did Parliament smell like? Cabbage. It smelled like cooked cabbage, didn't it?
You know, that's right, and that's right. It's a bit like a school canteen,
yes,
isn't it? I think.
It is.
Yeah. But, I mean, I do like boiled cabbage, as long as it's not too boiled. It's very nice. But I also wanted to say that your description of Parliament was, really, really vivid. I enjoyed it very much. And I remember I went to Washington in 2017 and managed to get a ticket to go to spend 20 minutes in the Senate in the Capitol. Mm. And it was really, I actually, at that time in 2017, I kind of went away really admiring the way the Americans sort of built their democracy from scratch, their republic from scratch. And I thought, this democracy will live for a long time. It's constitution. It's got a constitution.
It's doing very well. Is that the thought that you had?
Right now, that is a thought I have. I didn't then. I thought, yeah.
No, I think they've turned a wrong corner somewhere, because the Speaker of the House now is, he's a complete... he's a total fruitcake.
He is. The one last thing, if you allow, is the Piers Morgan thing yesterday. Was it yesterday? Wow, yeah, because you talked about it. I think you're going to go on to it again.
I am. Well, I didn't really talk about it in depth. People mentioned it, but I have detailed files. Go ahead.
From what I gather, if you look through the papers about it, you won't find much.
No, that's right. Yeah, they were trying to draw a veil over all of that and hope that we forget.
It's interesting that Piers Morgan sort of stood on those, stood outside his house, I think it was, and made all those, assertions about no evidence, and they didn't invite him to court. Well, of course, a lot of people don't think about is that he's not speaking under oath, and that if he were ever in a courtroom.
Well, I think he has denied it under oath, hasn't he? In the wasn't it the Leveson inquiry when he was speaking under oath? Did he not say that he hasn't, and he hasn't directed anybody to?
Yeah, but he was that. Yeah, but that's not. I think all that the judge said yesterday was that he couldn't understand how Piers Morgan wouldn't have known about it. So that's not the same as saying I've never hacked a telephone and I've never asked anyone to hack a telephone.
No, but he said that. But Piers Morgan said that. Not the judge. The judge.
Exactly. The judge didn't say. Listen, I look forward to what you've got, got to say about it, especially if it's as good as the sewage tanker episode.
Well, it is related, I suppose. Yeah, but not directly. All right, thanks a lot, Christoph. 0345 6060 973. Sharon says, in this sewage palaver, Is this sewage palaver like the Sunak hitting the fan? Hope you have a fab Christmas, says Sharon. Thanks a lot, Sharon. Cheers, my dear. Nick says, I live in Italy and Rishi Sunak seems to be all loved out with our Prime Minister Maloney. Spelt way wrong. Something about sending refugees somewhere. Mind you, Maloney is barely 5 foot tall, and I think that Fishy likes to hang out with her because it makes him feel tall. Well, I've got detailed files about those two characters as well. God, can you believe that? He's hanging out with that lot over there, which tells us everything we need to know about Fishy Sunak. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Yeah! Dude!
Okay, so here's this story about Fishy Sunak. He's on manoeuvres. Here's where we're headed under this regime. Neo-fascist Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni and Tichy Suitsize are in political lurve, LUV. And Tichy is attending a right-wing festival in Rome organised by Giorgia Meloni's hardline Brothers of Italy party. I mean, what about that doesn't smell right? Giorgia Meloni was the only other G7 leader to attend a UK summit on artificial intelligence last month.
Correct.
None of the other children wanted to come to play. So Tichy got to sing with Giorgia Meloni. Probably, I don't know, Tomorrow Belongs to Me. Such a sweet song.
Rock and roll!
The biggest draw at this right-wing festival will once again be Elon Musk, who was interviewed, you remember, by a genuflecting Sunak at the UK event like he was applying for a job, which he very well might be, because his current job is under review. Other guests at this summit include figures such as the leader of Spain's far-right Vox party. It's a little love-in for the wannabe dictator class. Post-Brexit, Sunak has found an ally inside the EU with a shared interest in taking the increasingly hardline stance on immigration demanded by his party's power base, that ever-dwindling base, made up of the over 65s and the under 100 IQs.
I love the poorly educated.
Your priorities are my priorities, said Tichy Sunak on camera when they met in the UK in November. He actually said that. Your priorities are my priorities.
It's the country's number one priority.
He's got to stop saying that word. You can't say priority. Stop saying it. I mean, we don't believe you anyway. He said, your party is my party. The previous month, Meloni and Tichy had joined forces to force migration onto the agenda at a meeting of dozens of European leaders in Granada. Their link is also one clearly built on the personal chemistry that can be seen in photographs of the footage of their meetings. Yet don't give him a hug, Giorgia Meloni. You'll snap him like a twig. So not only is our unelected Prime Minister cozying up to the Italian far right, while representing the country that couldn't see the far right with a telescope from where we sit, he's also sucking up to the far out Elon Musk, which seems a bit, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would say that the PM needs to give a full account of everything he says and does on his little trip. But I know that he can't remember anything about anything. I don't recall. I can't remember. I don't recognise those words. I don't think I said that. I didn't commit it to memory. I can't call that to mind. It doesn't ring a bell. Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. 0345 6060 973. Glasgow, Frankie.
Nick, how you doing, pal?
Good, thanks.
And guess what? It's still raining in Glasgow.
Is it? Yeah.
It's not raining.
But it is.
No, it's windy. Oh, does that count?
No.
It's cold, it's freezing.
Glasgow weather. That very much sounds like Glasgow. I can check that while you wait. One moment, please.
Oh, no.
Your eyes are deceiving you. It is raining at the moment.
Well, I'm glad I'm home, so...
And it will be raining tomorrow and raining on Monday and... What? Not raining on Tuesday? Pfft, rubbish. But raining on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday and then Monday, which is Christmas Day. Oh, you might get a little bit of snow on Christmas Day. Or sleet, actually, not snow, sleet.
Does that count?
No.
White Christmas?
It doesn't, no. Sleet.
No.
It's definitely not a white Christmas, no.
But
when did you ever...
Can we not claim that as like a white Christmas?
No. When did you ever see a Christmas card with sleet on it?
Only in Glasgow.
Only in Glasgow, right. So what have you got for us?
Right, well, he got knighted, didn't he?
Who did?
The Fab.
Michael Fabricant.
His Fabness. That's how I phoned you. I think we should call him his Fabness, because we usually call him the Barnett or the Fabricant, with his hair. But it's difficult to say the Barnett, Nick, because when I phoned you last Friday, you made a great point, and you're going to make me a lot of money off this. You said with autocrats, They've all got dodgy.
Yeah, they've all got weird hair.
They've all got mental hair.
I know, they absolutely do. And it's almost like they're like a logo or a way to take the mind off the evil that they do. And I'm not saying that Michael Fabricant is evil necessarily, but there's something of the night about his hair.
Do you think it's like a badge of honour that they've got to go?
No, I think it's
cases get together and say, right, let's get the Barnett because nobody cares.
No. It's not a badge of honour. It's a badger.
A badger of honour. Right, come on, Nick. A listener was material.
Yeah, and he was sitting on his own on the benches both before and after Prime Minister's questions, as though.
Well, that's very easy to believe in.
Well, it was odd because nobody else was. I mean, it was practically empty apart from Kemi Badenough and whoever she was putting down or speaking imperiously to. It was just him on like a sea of empty leather. And it was just a bit weird, like he didn't have anything and like he had nowhere to go.
Still surprising. Would you sit next to him, haven't they?
Oh, well, that's just mean.
Right, no, but so we agreed that he goes in with the Donald, as Bodgeness,
and Bodge,
and we'll just call him.
And then there's that,
Sadness.
that new guy is a new guy who's just taken over Argentina, and they've all got weird hair.
He's a proper head case.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know he walks about with a chainsaw?
He does, yeah. That's his thing. Yeah, him
quite
and
subtle, that, isn't it?
not really, no. Him and Joe Walsh walk about with chainsaws, but Joe Walsh just did it to frighten the hotel reception, and because he ordered a suite and they only had a room, so he cut a hole in the wall of the hotel room that he was in to make it into a suite. He actually did that. So it's the president of Argentina and Joe Walsh out of the Eagles, who carry around chainsaws, in their ordinary in their luggage. Yeah.
Nick, before I go,
before you go,
AC/DC live in River Plate.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus wept. See the minute that Angus Young hits the chord on Runaway Train. Have you ever seen a crowd?
No, I haven't.
So many thousands of people levitate like that.
It's amazing. It's absolutely astonishing. It looks like a health and safety fail. And it would not be allowed to be crushed in like that in this country. But I have never seen a crowd react like that for any event at all ever. It's an amazing sight. It really is.
Well, that's not. It's funnily enough, it's an Argentinian thing. If you watch at the River Plate Stadium, even like a football game, but see. The Argentinian, I don't know, they must have the best conductor in the whole world that just goes bosh, because it looks so symmetrical and coordinated.
It really does.
It was choreographed to absolute.
I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people all crammed in on the pitch of this stadium, and in an ordinary gig, it'll be the people up the front who are jumping up and down, perhaps.
Aye.
In this thing, it was everybody, the entire crowd were bouncing up and down in unison. It's just an amazing sight.
It was a thing of absolute beauty that I don't think could be replicated.
No. All right,
but the
okay.
Argentinians can do it big time.
They can do it better than anybody, yeah. All right, thanks a lot, Frankie. But as for that whole, bizarre hair thing...
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
You just don't. Take it from an expert. This question says, when does the A to Z start? It starts on Christmas Eve at 10 o'clock. I'm on from the Friday before Christmas. No, I think Christmas Eve, when does it fall? I should know that by now, shouldn't I? One moment, please. Checking while you wait. So, it's the 16th now. Okay, so I'm on Friday, the 22nd, and then all the way through to... I'm actually doing New Year's Day, which I didn't know about, but apparently I am. So I'll do Friday and Saturday, and then on this Sunday is Christmas Eve, and that's when the A to Z starts at 10, and then every night until and including New Year's Eve. And the idea will be that we'll put those shows up as podcasts. Now, the Friday and the Saturday night shows ordinarily get put up the internet as podcasts, and the idea is that we take the news and the ads out, which means it takes less time to listen to, so you'll use less electricity, and with the money you save, you'll be able to afford more hair products. These things are only available on Global Player. So if you don't have Global Player, then it's free. It has all of the stations that we do at Global. Now, I could start to mention them, but I know I'll miss out about a dozen. So I'll just mention some of the ones that occur to me at this moment. Classic FM, of course. And Capital and Heart and... I forget. So it will be an incomplete list if I try to list them all. But if you like music, then you'll love it. It's called Global Player. You can get it from globalplayer.com or your favourite app store, and that will be the only way in which you can get these podcasts that will that we at the moment put up the Friday and Saturday night shows every week as a podcast. And because it's news and mostly ad-free, it takes much less time to listen to. I think you'll love it. And when they put the A to Z out, that will go out as a podcast as well on Global Player. So if you don't have it yet, then I recommend you get it. It's got just loads, endless podcasts of all different types that you'll find on there. Globalplayer.com or your favourite app store. Get Global Player, and you can get the Friday and Saturday night shows ordinarily as podcasts. And, crucially, it'll be the way to get the A to Z shows as podcasts as well. Because, people have got things to do. They can't listen live every day, not necessarily. And if you haven't heard the A to Z before, the idea is it's one letter per hour, and it fits perfectly between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, apart from the last hour, which is where all the difficult letters go. I think it's XYZ, all goes squeezed into the last hour. And it starts 10 p.m. Christmas Eve, the A to Z of 2023 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Okie dokie.
Mind telling me what this is all about?
Well, it was, I just caught a bit of it, something about a turtle in a sea zoo. And I thought Sea Zoo was a song by Paul McCartney.
Rock and roll!
Sea Zoo, Sea Zoo, sing! Sea Zoo, are you? Merthyr Tydfil, Jeff.
Yep, we got the turtle. The thing is, Nick, I was listening to Matt Fry this morning.
Oh, yes.
Great guy, nice guy. And he was saying he was interviewing some lord or other, being the COP conference out in...
Some lord or other.
And this guy was saying that the UK has lost its position of admiration, so to speak, with the rest of the world, because they've just given a licence for a coal mine in Cumberland.
Right.
Okay? So this was the gist of what they were saying. So I spent the rest of the day fuming and raging about the fact that they tried to close a coal mine in this area, and it's failed. And it's still, I took a detour today because they shut the Edge of the Valley, and I passed the place. I went through there. You can drive through this place. The road goes through the middle of this huge excavation. It does.
Really?
You can see the damn thing. And I'm looking to the right, and there's the coal. It's still being loaded at the railhead.
Is it?
Yeah, it's still going, and they talking about us losing our position in the world in our efforts to decarbonise, and here we got this. I can't get my head around it, and then to couple all this, there was a discussion on Michelle Mone and the fact that, and she's produced this video.
A video, yeah.
Yeah, and they show in this video, parts of it, on the BBC. What is going on?
I don't know. Here's news about Fossifran, which is the coal mine, the open cast coal mine that you're talking about. Campaigners have been pushing for the site in Merthyr Tydfil to close since its planning permission expired in September of 2022, after 15 years. Planning permission expired in September last year, and they're still pulling coal out.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it certainly is. I was on my way to the old Goose and Cook. I took a detour, and I couldn't believe it.
The operator has now, and this is a story from August this year. It says the operator, has now notified the Welsh Government that it will cease operation on the 30th of November. And you're saying that it hasn't?
You can go over and see these machines digging this coal out.
Really?
It's incredible. I mean, I can't believe it. They're still moving. How are you going to close it, I suppose? He's notified it that they're going to close, but who's going to check? who's checking?
But the thing is, it's not a coal mine like you'd think you'd be able to, surreptitiously dig coal out of an actual mine, because it'd be under the ground and nobody could see you doing it. This is just an open mine. It's like they've lopped the top off a mountain and they're sucking out all the good stuff inside, like it's a walnut whip.
Yep, and I can assure you that it's like Jimmy Savile. It's done in plain sight. It's criminal. It's criminal. I tell you.
Okay. All right. Good work. Keep your eyes peeled, Jeff. Thanks a lot. Keep us updated. Good work, that man. Rose says, sewage. This is what will happen to the government. Sewage. And I was thinking in my mind, why is that funny? Sewage. And what I was thinking of, but I couldn't quite bring it to the front of my mind, was Peter Cook playing the role of a priest who is marrying the evil prince and the charming princess in the film The Princess Bride. Now, I bet that film is going to be on this Christmas at some time, because it is perfect family entertainment. You'd be really hard-pressed to dislike that film. If you have not seen Princess Bride, then I'm getting excited just at the very thought of seeing it again. I must have seen it like 10 times already, but it's just perfect in every way. But he said, and I can't hear this word said in any other way. When I hear the word that I'm about to say in the manner of Peter Cook, I can't hear it in any other manner. It's just beautifully done. It really is. It just opens a close-up on him, and he takes a deep breath in and says, marriage. This sacred joining, and on and on. Anyway, better you watch it than me tell you more about it. The Princess Bride. I betcha it's on TV this year. At Christmas. Perfect family entertainment. And you can thank me later. No, wait. I've changed my mind. You can thank me now.
Thank you.
Let's have Milton Keynes. Lloyd.
Nick, I have just tweeted you an award that Suella Braverman got today.
Yes.
Nick, it's called Suella Braverman got the D. I won't spell the word.
I know.
Look, just wanted to say, there's a God out there. There are people. Yes. I think my year is done. Just wanted to share with you that.
All right. Good work. Thanks a lot, Lloyd. Yes, we know. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer person. 3 cheers for Suella Braverman. Hip hip. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't get to the end of this text from Rose. Sewage. This is what will happen. Government will quiz Thames, quizzes in inverted commas. The government will quiz Thames Water, be appraised of Thames Water's financial difficulties, i.e. irresponsibility, and the government will reply, well, by lucky coincidence, we have a whole country that we can do absolutely anything we like with. and we can easily bail you out by letting you take all the necessary money from the population, says Rose. And I bet she's completely correct in every respect. Because it gets worse than everything that I've been mentioning about them before. The Guardian in, let's see now, this is July, reported the following. In a little over 3 decades, Thames Water, the biggest water and sewage company in England, serving 15 million people, has transformed from a debt-free public utility into what critics argue is a privately owned investment vehicle carrying the highest debt in the industry. Just keep that in mind when they come to you with the begging bowls out, all of these water companies that are running out of money, that they were virtually given, these companies, debt-free. Over the years, as admitted by Sarah Bentley, the firm's departing CEO, its executives and shareholders and private equity companies who own it have presided over decades of underinvestment, aggressive cost-cutting and huge dividend payments. You know what? And it shouldn't be huge. Providing water should not be the way in which private companies can enrich themselves. But that's what you get when you vote Conservative. It says the symptoms of these decades can be seen in the scale of the sewage discharges, the record leaks from its pipes and the state of its treatment plants. Yeah, that story that I started the show with, that is not an isolated incident. Analysis of the accounts of Thames Water between 1990 and 2022 reveal a story that is echoed to some degree across the industry. Figures show how privatisation, which was intended to lead to a new area of investment, improved water quality and low bills, turned water into a cash cow for investment firms and private equity companies, none more so than the Australian infrastructure asset management firm Macquarie, which, with its co-investors, bought Thames Water in 2006 from a German utility firm RWE for $4.8 billion. By the time Macquarie sold its stake in Thames, debts had more than tripled, from $3.2 billion to $10.5 adjusted for inflation. Its pattern was to borrow... Now, this is the important part. Its pattern was to borrow against its assets to increase dividend payments to shareholders. Now, let's just think about that for a second. Couple or three things. First, never forget that we are the only country in the history of the world that has ever sold all of our water. No other country has ever been as stupid as that. Second, this perfectly encapsulates why Britain has such a productivity problem. And it's not the reason that the Lizbot and her dead-eyed friends from the secretive so-called think tanks say that it's the fault of the lazy British worker.
Absolutely.
It's the fault of the owners who take out the profits for themselves and allow their business to slowly crash while they get ever richer, while blaming the worker who's on minimum wage for being so greedy as to want to earn enough to heat and eat. And Macquarie and its co-investors made their position clear right from the start, hiking dividends in the first year of their operations in 2007 to £656 million, when profits were £241 million. So I'll just pause and we can let that sink in. I mean, it's not like they're even trying to hide it. Profits were £241 million, which is obscene enough for providing something that we can't do without from a source that's running a monopoly. £241 million in profits, but they awarded themselves £656 million for excellence in being them. You can go ahead now and scream if you like. Just let it out. Over their 11 years of control, Macquarie and its co-investors paid out £2.8 billion to shareholders. £2.8 billion. Which is 2/5 of the total $7 billion in dividends that Thames Water paid out between 1990 and 2022. £7 billion. You want to know why your water bills are so high and where all the money is going? Well, there it is, right there. The average yearly dividends paid during the Macquarie period of ownership of Thames were 5 times higher than those paid after it sold its final stake in 2017. The consortium that took over Thames Water in 2017 has not taken their dividends since, but the company has paid internal dividends. including £37 million in the year to March last year. So that's dividends within the group of companies that it owns. Ofwat recommends that companies maintain a ratio to debt to capital value of 60%. But Thames Water's debt is £14.3 billion now. And more than half of it is inflation-linked. And as inflation has gone through the roof, so have their repayments. So they face hikes on its debt repayment, even as it's being told to invest billions more fixing the infrastructure, which has been left to crumble, which it wouldn't be doing if they hadn't paid themselves £7 billion. I mean, I just assume that that's true. I don't know, not being an expert. So they won't pay that money. How can they? And are we going to get our money back? Well, not under this government. I mean, Fishy Sunak is not going to do anything to rein in the donor class, is he? So we will pay to fix the things that we used to own that we have already paid to fix. Vote Conservative. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
Bruno says your Mog impression frightened the living daylights out of my cat. Jess says Therese Coffin was Minister for Environmental Ignorance. Do you think that, as incredible as it sounds, she might have been even more useless than Grayling, Raab or Cameron? More useless than Dominic Raab?
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory. I don't support the Human Rights Act, and I don't believe in economic and social rights. My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Yeah, I totally believed you the first time. More useless than Dominic Raab, I don't know. David Cameron?
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, probably more useless than him. Therese Coffin used to be Minister for the Environment, or Minister for Nature, and by all measures seems to actually hate nature. Well, look at what it's done to her. 0345 6060 973. Manchester. Hello, Raj.
Hi there, Nick. It's Raj here again. I was just going to say to your guy there beforehand, I think when you talked about Macquarie's, or the Severn Trent Water's debt repayments, it won't be linked to inflation, but it'll be linked to base rates. So obviously, as you know, base rates went from 0.25 to 5.25. That's how their repayments will be structured against that. So I just wanted to sort of let you know that.
Okay, very, very important point there, Raj.
Absolutely, no, I completely agree. No, it is very important. No, it is very important because you don't people think it's linked to inflation because it's not. It's linked to base rates.
Right. Okay. And is that it?
That's all.
All right. A pedant calls. Thanks a lot, Raj. That really puts that whole argument that I made in the shade. I retract my entire argument. Dan says, all this raw sewage that the water companies are storing, why don't they just dump it straight into our rivers and waterways? Oh, yeah, I forgot. They're already doing that. Every single day. Every day they're doing that. You know, Fergal Sharkey, he does excellent work. He's worth following on Twitter if you've got a strong stomach. He puts up regular maps of the sewage, the raw sewage discharges that are taking place around and in this country. And it's basically just a map that is completely covered with warning signs. The entirety of our coast is covered in a thick slick of raw sewage every day. And a river near you. Well, if there is a river near you...
Warning!
If you go down to the water today, you're in for a big surprise.
Disgusting.
Yeah. It just gets worse. I mean, I have more information. Would you like to hear it?
No.
No, I didn't think so, no. Maybe we should start talking about something other than sewage. Wembley. Hello, Justin.
Hi there, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
I just wanted to pick up on the comments that you were making with regard to water companies and their taking of excess dividends. And I just want... Did you get those figures from the LSE, by the way? The LSE and City University did analysis on this.
No, from The Guardian, which may have sourced it from the LSE.
Yeah, the FT did something similar as well. I think you're 100% correct. What we have is a owning asset class, which is led by private equity investors, and I work in the city, so I see this day in, day out, who effectively take the majority of returns, so in terms of profits, appropriate that to themselves, and then say, well, there's not enough to pay workers. And apparently the workers are lazy and the workers are work shy.
Right.
Well, if we look at the figures since 2000 up until 2022, real wage growth has been more or less zero in the UK. GDP per capita has been more or less flatlining, and yet dividends have gone up by 132%.
Right.
So the money is there. It's just being appropriated by the owners of the businesses, not the people who work for the businesses. So they're living off our sweat. And I just wanted to make that clear, because often we hear about migration and labour shortages, but economic research shows that when there's endemic labour shortage, it's nearly always because the conditions of work in that sector are so bad that people can't survive on them.
Right.
Well, that's the reason why.
Yes, it's not the laziness of the 99% that is the problem. It's the insatiable greed of the 1% that's the problem.
It's exactly that, and the figures back it up. So I was impressed that you seem to have done the same analysis that I had looked at as well. So I thought I would support you in that.
All right, excellent work. Thanks a lot, Justin. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, it's not the people who are on coming off small boats that are the problem. It's the people coming off Eton that are the problem. James says, on the subject of Peter Cook in The Princess Bride, did you ever receive a call from Sven in Swiss Cottage? No, I don't think I did. That was Peter Cook, right? He used to call Clive Bull. No, I did not. Not to my knowledge, no. Craig says, at a rally, Trump said, although I did see him in Hampstead High Street, he used to live right on Hampstead Hill, or whatever that hill is called, that's just off Hampstead High Street. Or maybe it is called Hampstead High Street. I used to live there. I should know. And he was very, very tall, very thin. Not anymore, of course, but he sort of folded himself into the doorway of a cute little house on Hampstead High Street. Craig says, at a rally, Trump said, if Obama gets re-elected, it could lead to World War II. It could lead to World War II. He said that, yeah. In an interview, he again referred to Obama remaining as president, and it was pointed out that it's Biden who would remain president, to which he replied, Biden works for Obama. Everybody knows that. Everybody totally works for him. Everybody knows that. Yeah. Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States of America. I know. Yeah, just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any worse, it could. Ed says, not certain whether you've seen the Christmas cards in the Daily Telegraph of Messrs Sunak and Hunt. They are awful. It pains me to say the only elegant card issued was Liz Truss's. Liz Truss had a Christmas card, and Sunak and Hunt's clothing looked like it came from a clothes bank. Well, I've only seen Sunak's not real size, just reproduced in a newspaper, and it looks like a child did it. Somebody's just squiggled a hat on Titchy and his family, and that's it. That's it. That's all we get. And we don't even get that. Thanks a lot, Rishi Sunak. You've ruined Christmas. Glasgow. Hello, Chrissy.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I thought I would take it slightly in a different direction, away from the sewage and stuff.
Thank you.
The thing on the news there about some turtle, I can't remember what type of Guatemalan turtle paradise or some damn thing anyway, washed up on a shore that's not meant to be here. Anyway, and I thought, that puts me in mind of hearing about all these animals that are starting to migrate towards our shores kind of accidentally because of climate change.
Yes.
So we're starting to see influxes of all sorts of creatures that shouldn't really be here. Mm-hmm. And obviously the sewage isn't putting them off, so they're still coming. So you've got like your polyphylla turtle or prophecy or whatever it was called. You've got your turtle. And I thought, what other creatures have been turning up? And I looked some up, and there, in terms of displaced species, we've got a green-fanged tube-web spider,
Oh.
which was spotted in Leicester.
A spider with fangs.
Green fang.
Right, I don't like the sound of
tube-web
that.
spider.
No.
Tube kind of makes it sound like it's hiding. You will not see it coming. It's venomous and it does cause injury to humans, and that's in Leicester.
It's also an insult in Glasgow. You tube.
Your tube, aye, I can beat it. Your tube. That's so well remembered. Make a Glaswegian out you yet?
Yes.
You're more Glaswegian than a lot of people I know.
Well,
and I was thinking.
Edinburgh, which I don't think a Glaswegian would describe as being in Glasgow. No, I'm pretty sure that's not true.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. It's not. But I like to skirt over that. That's the one thing that puts. I don't like to know about your links to Edinburgh. It really saddens me.
It upsets you. Yeah.
It does upset me. Yeah. So I was thinking, and there's various birds. There's a purple heron.
Yes.
Well,
that sounds nice.
It does sound nice because apparently there's 55 species that are displaced that have come to the UK. Well, that'll be approximate, I'm sure. 22 of which will either have a positive or negative effect on our country's ecosystems. The rest of them are pretty harmless.
Yeah, never mind about the ecosystem. There's something coming over that is much, much smaller than everything you've just described. I was talking about this yesterday, and they are various mosquitoes that previously have not been able to live here because it hasn't been warm enough, but they carry disease that could kill you, and they're coming to a location near you soon.
Yeah, well, so are Tories. Do you know what I mean? They carry disease as well. I mean, with sewage all around us, it's really no surprise we're going to end up with. I mean, I come from the land of the midgie, so mosquitoes would really have to go some to beat that.
That's right.
But midgies don't carry dengue fever and stuff, so swings and roundabouts, as long as they get to England first. But King Charles could go out and shoot some of this stuff.
He could. That's quite true. Yeah, he could shoot some mosquitoes out of the air and call it sport.
Yeah, and they could serve it up in one of their weird banquets along beside these dodo steaks or whatever else he eats, and get rid of some that way.
Dodo steaks and with a mosquito jus. Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Sauteed mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Sauteed.
All right, well, as soon as the menu changes, Chrissy, I want you to let me know straight away. All right, got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 11:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Excuse me?
Terry says, have a look at the MP for Camberley, who is the MP for the Camberley sewage dump. And I just looked it up, and can you believe it? It's Michael Blooming Gove.
Calm down.
Yeah, Michael Gove is the MP for the sewage dump.
Major capital letters, big news story.
Jeremy says, when I worked in Beckton, our office was right next to the largest sewage works in Europe, and one lunchtime we went to have a look and asked them if there was anything they could do about the pong, which really hangs in the air in that area. We got chatting to a guy who was telling us that they have marvellous tomato plants growing at the site. He said the beautiful red tomatoes are show winners due to the quality of the fertiliser. Anybody want to eat those?
No.
No. No, not really, no. Where did you get the sewage from? No, thanks. I'll have a BLT, hold the tea. We are such mugs in this country. I cannot believe it. This is for the Financial Times from, May this year. Britain's privatised water and sewage companies paid £1.4 billion in dividends in 2022, up from £540 million the previous year, despite rising household bills and a wave of public criticism over sewage outflows. So they gave us a worse service for more money, and they paid themselves £1.4 billion for doing it. For providing something that we can't do without, that we'd be put in jail if we didn't pay for, and that they provide as a monopoly. We are the stupidest people in the world. This is the only country that has ever done that has ever sold off its water. The only country on earth that has ever done that. Figures based on a Financial Times analysis of the 10 largest water and sewage companies' accounts are higher than headline dividends in the year end to March 2022. This is because several have layered corporate structures with numerous subsidiaries, only one of which, the operating company, is regulated by Ofwat. Isn't Ofwat doing a tremendous job?
Dreadful.
Yeah, awful. Regulator. Maintaining dividends means less money is available from customer bills for investment in critical infrastructure such as sewage treatment and water mains. You know, the thing that continually bursts in a road near you? You're constantly driving through a blooming river because the water mains burst again. The complex arrangements enable providers to distinguish between internal dividends, that is, payments between intermediate holding companies in the group, and external dividends to private equity, sovereign wealth and pension funds which own the entire water and sewage business, including the holding companies. So it's one of these like financial finagling rackets. The Byzantine structures are one reason that Ofwat is concerned over transparency in the sector. It's updating licence conditions so it can block dividends from April 2025, which, unless I'm hallucinating, is over 2 years away. They can block dividends from over 2 years away if the company looks financially vulnerable. It'll also require boards to take account of environmental and customer targets when they decide to make payments to themselves for excellence in being them. Well, that really sounds like the regulator is cracking down, doesn't it? No. After being sold with no debt at privatisation, they were pretty much given away. These companies have racked up borrowings of, get ready, sit down, grip onto something firm. So they were debt-free when they were given away by Margaret Thatcher. Now they have borrowings of £60.6 billion. At the same time, total spending on infrastructure has failed to rise. So where's the £60.6 billion gone that they borrowed against the assets that we gave them, you might think? Well, you know what the answer is. Here's the spending on average annual wastewater investment. In the 1990s, it was 295 million. In the 1990s, £295 million. It was £297 million in the 2010s. So inflation went through the roof, but the amount of money they spent didn't. And it was, in the 2020s, it's 273 million. Now, costs, this is average annual wastewater investment. So it's actually, never mind about in real terms, in actual amounts, it's gone down since the 1990s. What else since the 1990s has got cheaper? Now, costs including interest payments are soaring, adding to pressure on company finances just as they face demands to ramp up investment in infrastructure. And they'll look to their bank accounts and say, well, very sorry about this, but for some strange reason, there's no money left. It's hard to trace exactly where the cash from water bills is going, says Dieter Helm, a professor of economic policy at Oxford University. These complex financial structures are not transparent or clear and have delivered no obvious benefits to customers, he says. Water companies have been running rings around Ofwat for years. And if your affairs are neither transparent nor clear, then you'd have to, you could make your own mind up as to why that might be. And the Chinese and those people in Abu Dhabi and the Americans and the Australians and the Germans and the Singaporeans and the Canadians and all the rest of the owners of what used to be our water are showering themselves with our cash while they shower us with raw sewage. Literally. If you go down to the water hole today, you're in for a big surprise. I'd take some wet wipes with you if I were you. 0345 6060 973. Regent's Park. Hello, Vance.
Hello, Nick. I just wanted to add two snippets of information. The biggest equity holder in our water companies, especially Southern Water and Thames, is the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, the biggest, the most substantial wealth fund on the planet.
Yeah, and why is that?
Exactly.
Because they kept their oil, unlike in this country when we gave it away to multinational corporations that we then subsidised more than the amount of tax that they paid.
Absolutely.
We're such mugs in this country. It's just absolutely astonishing what has happened over the last decade or so.
Yes, indeed. And one other point, Macquarie, they're big investors too.
Yeah.
But they dip in and dip out of our water companies. So it's clear that they invest in our companies when the interest rates are high, and when the interest rates do not climb so high, then they sell, and then they buy in again. Macquarie is always dipping in and out, if you look at their investment.
Right.
It's a racket. It's pure greed.
I cannot believe that we have been so stupid as to sell off something that we cannot do without and that is provided as a monopoly by people who are interested. Their first and primary interest is making a profit.
Yeah, indeed. And Keir Starmer should be talking about this.
Yeah, like if he just talked solely about this until the next election, then he would win in a landslide.
Yes, I think so.
All right, thanks a lot, Vance. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Brian says, this is a good point. He says, Tichy Sunak can't even work his WhatsApp. Why would Elon Musk give him a job? Good point, Brian. I don't know what Tichy Sunak is going to do when we chuck him out on his ear. Because he doesn't seem capable of holding down a job. The man can't remember anything. Can't even work a blooming phone. He doesn't know how a credit card works, for crying out loud. What's he good for? 0345 6060 973. Plymouth, Julie.
Hello, Nick. How are you, my darling?
I am super. Thanks for asking.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry you missed out on your subsidised posh meal, because it's people like you that deserve that.
That is quite right, yes.
Not them lot in there that do nothing for us.
In case you're
People like
wondering,
you.
yeah, that's correct. In case you're wondering what we're talking about, I went to Parliament on Wednesday in order to avail myself of one of their subsidised restaurants, which were all booked. But you know me, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
But as you're unfortunate with that, I did want to... You had the moths last night. Now, all the major supermarkets, their baked beans have got... Not just their baked beans, but some tins of bean products have got small plastic balls in them.
What?
So you mustn't eat them.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Hang on a minute. I haven't read about this. Beans have got balls in them.
Yes, small plastic balls of choking hazard, and I know your throat plays you up sometimes, so I thought I've got to let you know.
Well, that's right. Now, hang on, I'm just Googling this as I speak.
Okay.
Baked beans are recalled because they may contain rubber balls. Get Johnny... was it Johnny V? No, rubber balls
Johnny,
come bouncing back to me.
Yes, Johnny. Bobby V.
Bobby V is the right answer. Would you like to play for the car?
Yes, please. I don't drive.
Baked beans recalled because they may contain rubber balls. The ball's about 2.5 centimetres in diameter. Well, that's a huge ball.
Gosh, it doesn't... What's going on?
2.5... That's over an inch. They're an inch in diameter. How the hell did a plastic ball an inch in diameter get in a tin of beans?
I don't know. It's crazy. It's not just the baked, it's the one of the sausages. It's also mixed salad beans. So, like, you know, when you get a nice tin of mixed beans to make up a salad, there are them ones too, so just be careful.
Well, what is going on here? We got Asda baked beans. These are products that may contain balls. This is not going to be on the ingredients list, but may contain balls. Asda baked beans in tomato sauce, Asda mixed bean salad, Branston baked beans in tomato sauce, Sainsbury's baked beans and pork sausages, Tesco's mixed bean salad, Tesco's baked beans and pork sausage, and on and on and on and on it goes.
We can't even have a nice slice of beans on toast anymore without worrying what is going on, Nick.
I know.
And I just wanted to... You made me reminisce about play Monopoly with my 4 brothers, usually over Christmas when I was growing up in the Thatcher years. And
Yes.
we always used to laugh at my eldest brother because he'd always buy the train stations, the electric company and the water company.
Right.
And we'd laugh at him. And I think he knew what he was doing.
Yes.
Yes. If only he was alive and running us now, we'd be okay.
Yeah, unless his head hasn't been turned by all that vast amount of cash that just comes pouring through the door, and he turns into one of the robber barons.
No, keep him honest. Keep him honest, Bob.
Right.
His name was Bob, so we'll keep him honest.
All right. Okay, thanks for the good
You
news.
take care.
Cheers, Julie. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Baked beans may contain rubber balls. Can you believe that? How is a rubber ball a part of the makeup that packs beans, for crying out loud? When she said that, I thought she was referring to something that was like teeny tiny, like a little polystyrene ball. Those things that but an inch. I mean, 2.5 centimeters. That's about an inch, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't think they'd be able to. How would they even get in the can? This is a mysterious. It's a Christmas mystery. Message coming in. Chrissy knows. Well, who's that? Who's Chrissy? Who's Chrissy?
Chrissy in Glasgow. I'm just chatting to her now.
Oh, we're chatting to her now. All right, well, we'll get to further information as it becomes available. Isn't it exciting? Jeremy text. No, I read that one. I read that one. And Tishi Sunak can't even work a phone. How's he going to get a job with Elon Musk in his IT department? He just isn't. Doesn't know how to work a blooming phone. Can't operate a credit card, for crying out loud. Well, apparently Chrissy, that I've just been speaking to, knows how the balls got into the cans, and so I will be speaking to her again after this short break, when we will all become illuminated.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Thank you for holding. Your call is important to us.
Yes, your call is important to us, Chrissy. Now, we were talking about balls, and I thought, well, Chrissy is an expert in that regard, so we must have her on the phone straight away. Go ahead.
Hi, Chrissypedia here. I happened to read the article, that's all I know. I don't have any crazy inside knowledge. It's the manufacturing process. They use the balls to wash the beans and kind of agitate them. They're used as an agitator. That's what they call these kind of things. What are you laughing at me for?
Well, I am agitated at the very thought that there would be balls in my beans.
You're such a nasty man at times. You really are a nasty man at times. But the balls are just used as an agitator, I believe, to clean out the beans. And for whatever reason, they have escaped and made a beeline for the tins and, trying to escape their prison of the factory. Yeah. And frankly, if you're dim enough to think that an impenetrable inch-wide rubber ball is a bean, then you deserve to choke.
Well, Darwinism at work, yeah. All right. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, Chrissy. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Sue says, do you think that the prospect of having to enter a knobbly knees competition at Pontins could prove to be a much stronger deterrent for the migrants than being shipped off to Rwanda? Perhaps a few Tory MPs could be commandeered to make a short YouTube video demonstrating what's involved. My suggestions would be Michael Fabricant, 30p Lee, Mark Francois, and maybe Jacob Nees-Mogg. Question is, does this idea have legs? No. Craig says, is Michael Fabricant's hair made out of Bird's instant whip that's been left in the freezer overnight? No, it looks to me like, and I know I've said this before, but you know those restaurants that put plastic versions of their food in the windows? It looks like a plastic plate of pasta. No offence. This says, Tim texts, Cook used the same voice in his movie The Hand of the Baskervilles. I don't know that. Dan says, we were talking about Peter Cook. Marriage, that one. Dan says, the idea of the gin and jag belt, as in Surrey, exploding in a shower of stinky brown sounds like a fitting epitaph for the residents of that particular part of the country. They're the ones with all the money, and by association the food, and we know what food makes. Well, that is true, yeah. Bude. Adrian.
All right, Nick, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. I just want to check, did you do your homework from last week?
No.
Good. Well, there's a couple of three things. One is, I banged on about Danny Carey from Tool, who's David Cameron's favourite drummer.
Right. Okay.
I didn't give you the title of the song for you to scrunch up and put in the bin.
Yes.
Which is actually called Pneuma, which is, under Greek philosophy, means the breath of life. I thought you'd like to know that.
And this is a track by a band called Tool.
Tool, yeah. But like I said, I know you hate drum solos. I'm going to phone you up from now into, I don't know, whenever.
To the end of time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to bug you to the end of time. No, I really won't. But I realised last week when I phoned you, I didn't actually give you the name of the track. You'd screw up and put
Right, well, I can't wait to look it up.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And on the other thing, do you know who the most sampled drummer was in the world ever? Do you know who he is?
The most sampled drummer in the world ever? Yeah, it would probably be that jazzer. I've got a picture of him in my mind, but I can't remember what he's called. The jazz guy.
The jazz guy. Oh, that narrows it down.
It does. It doesn't really, does it? It's
no. I'll give you a clue. It's
yes.
not the jazz guy.
It's not the jazz
Go on,
guy.
Who are you thinking of? Who's the jazz guy you're thinking of?
He was kind of an older guy. He's one of those guys that always has looked old. And God, what's his name? I can't remember.
But not Buddy Rich, something like that.
But an excellent suggestion for my glamorous assistant next door would be the drummer the drummer for James Brown.
Yeah, he heard me say that on the phone.
Oh, did he? Oh, right. Cheating.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I can't believe you're turning into a Tory. So, yeah, I'll forgive you for that because you make me laugh often.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, the drummer was called Clive Stubblefield, and I'm going to always talk to you about drumming and annoy you because I know how much you love it.
But I would suggest that the drummer for James Brown has become the most sampled drummer because of James Brown, not necessarily the drumming.
No, all right, I hear what you're saying. I'll give you that. But the thing is, he basically, Clive Stubblefield, invented funk drumming and the way he loops a beat and turns it around, drops the beat off, plays kind of 3/4, then comes back in, which
right, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Well, this is why you need to do your homework, Nick. I can't keep... I mean, you could be, I don't know, what's that word? You could be corrected if you do not do your homework.
Well, that sounds alarming.
Here's another one for you, and I will change the subject in a minute.
Yes.
So there is a guy on YouTube called JJ Fleck who's amazing because he looks like he's definitely been... rock and roll, man. Do you know what I mean? He's been smoking, I don't know, whatever. But he does all the breakdowns of his tracks. Again, it's only about 10 minutes long, but it's absolutely, like you said about AC/DC,
yes.
It is incredible to watch.
Buddy Rich. That's who I was talking about.
Yeah, I know. That's
Buddy Rich.
I did say Buddy Rich, and then you listened to your... but he's jazz. This guy was funk.
Right. Okay. Thanks for setting us straight there, Adrian. Excellent work, that man. I have no idea what he's talking about. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, Buddy Rich and that bloke who used to drum for James Brown. Like that. Sanjay says, do you think the Tories should bring back some fun into politics and elect Penfold Marc Francois? Penfold? Is that his name? Penfold Marc Francois as leader and spaghetti hair. What does Penfold mean? What does that mean? What does Penfold Marc Francois mean?
I thought that was a reference to Batfink.
For what?
To Batfink.
Batfink?
Batfink, my wings are like a shield of steel. No.
I've no idea what you're talking about now. It's like two in a row on the Nicky Abbot show. I've got no idea what the last caller was talking about, and I've got no idea what the glamorous assistant is talking about. Penfold, something about the wheels of steel. All this scratching is making me itch. Anyway, he says, I'd love to see these two turning up on the world stage to represent the UK. Marc Francois and Michael Fabricant. Well, It couldn't possibly get any worse, really, could it? I mean, if you squash those two together, Mark Francois and Michael Fabricant, what do you get?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Exactly. We've been through that nightmare before, and they're threatening to put us through it again.
Oh, no.
You would believe that. They've scraped through the bottom of the barrel completely.
Absolutely.
And then they've decided to revisit their previous mistakes. They're actually considering a dream ticket of you-know-who.
Here we go.
And this bloke.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
I couldn't agree more. Martin says the disastrous rollout of smart meters is another example of privatisation. Had they followed the EU model, whereby the meters are owned by the national grid, there would be no issue. Well, what's the issue? I've just had new smart meters put in my house. And when the bloke came round, I thought, you know what, I really should take a picture of the meter, the reading, so that when he puts the new meter in, it's the same reading, and they don't accidentally take thousands of pounds out of my account that I ain't got. But I forgot, and so, at this moment, anything could happen. Oh, well. Never mind. It's just money. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Message coming from next door. Penfold was Danger Mouse's sidekick, not Batfink. Oh, well, that really has cleared it up for me. Penfold. Right. The sort of a plump guy with glasses, looks a bit like Captain Mannering. Well, why would anybody call Mark Francois that? It's a mystery.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
You're joking.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again.
It's a radio show, dear. Chris texts, why on earth did Ofwat allow Thames to pay so much to themselves and not maintain the network, and then dump sewage in rivers and lakes and pay a fine? How is this even legal? I have no idea. I really don't. We are such easy marks in this country. We don't own anything anymore, do we? It's that we've had all of the family silver has been taken and sold off or just given away, essentially. And what do we get in return? Nothing. This is from the Standard last month. Thames Water has committed environmental crimes by dumping at least 72 billion litres of sewage into the River Thames since 2020. You've got to be kidding me. 72 billion litres of sewage into the Thames since 2020. Now, that's a difficult thing to bring to mind. So I'll put it into perspective for you. It's about 29,000 Olympic swimming pools worth of raw sewage.
Disgusting.
Can you imagine that? There you are, titchy suit size. Dive into that, I double dare you. Last year alone, at least 14.3 billion litres of sewage were discharged into the Thames, and 32 billion in 2021, making it the worst year on record, as in ever, for sewage discharges into the Thames. On one day in January 2021, Thames Water discharged almost 1 billion litres of sewage at just one site near Twickenham. The Liberal Democrat MP for Twickenham said... She accused the government of standing idly by while rivers are poisoned. Yeah, it's exactly what they've been doing for the past 13 years. Standing while our rivers are poisoned, and our beaches and our seas, and our discourse.
Correct.
And that's just what we know. But it's much worse than that, because sewage monitors are, you will be shocked to learn, often out of action. The Liberal Democrat MP for Twickenham, Minura Wilson, said these water firms are committing environmental crimes which are destroying our rivers and wildlife habitats, all while pocketing eye-watering sums of money. With almost every sewage monitor unable to measure the litres of sewage discharged, this figure is likely to enter the trillions. So if you thought 29,000 Olympic swimming pools worth of raw sewage going into the Thames in the last couple of years was big, the actual amount is way more than that. That's just what they've admitted to. The Liberal Democrat MP for Twickenham, Minura Wilson, said the government should force Thames Water to install new monitors which measure the volume of sewage discharged so we can find the areas we need saving the most. But, you know, as that might apportion blame on a multinational corporation, that's not very likely to happen under this regime.
This government.
Exactly. Do you think they'd be able to get away with this stuff in France? 0345 6060 973. East Yorkshire, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, a little music thing for you in a minute, but you're talking about the water companies and the energy companies and these being foreign-owned largely. Well, no one seems to have picked up on the fact that waste disposal, this is bin collection, industrial, everything else, is largely done by foreign-owned companies.
Yes, correct.
You know, Airbase and Veolia.
Yeah.
They're all foreign-owned.
Yeah,
Well,
we
once
used
you
to
get
do. We used to do all this ourselves.
Yeah, well, when you look at these multinationals, they pay tax where they choose to pay tax because they just move the money around like Amazon and everybody else. So we're missing out on tax. And they free marketeer lot, your trickle-down economics lot, say, oh, this is wonderful. No, it isn't. We're getting screwed.
Yeah.
They're paying tax where they want. And once we give up the ability to do it, then they've got us over a barrel.
Well, the free marketeer lot are only interested in the concentration of wealth in the hands of a vanishingly small number of people. That is their goal. That's the only thing they're interested in. Everything they say is to lead to that scenario. The further concentration of wealth in the hands of those who already are spectacularly rich. This sort of insatiable desire among the super rich to acquire more wealth to the detriment of everyone else on the planet.
Yeah, it's in some ways insanity, but the other bit with this is that when you go free market, that encourages short-termism. What can we grab now?
Yes.
Which
correct.
Is damaging to the whole human race.
Yes, it is.
We need long-term plans on it.
Yeah. Well, we need state ownership of the things that we rely on. I mean, that is even in question just seems extraordinary to me.
Yeah, I mean, water's essential, and waste disposal, at the end of the day, once they've got control of the market, we're going to pay whatever they want, and then they're going to pay the tax wherever they want.
Yeah.
It is really not good for the country. You've got to be in control of vital services.
Yeah, exactly. We might as well farm out waste management to the mafia.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anyway, just quickly, just a short musical thing. I watched a documentary which was Genesis, Some of the Parts.
Oh, yeah.
And some documentaries are pretty rubbish, but this one was amazing. They had all the members on, and they were healthy in spite of living the life that they did. And they got them in a room, and they were all sat together. Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, a lot. And they were jovial, and they were laughing and joking and explaining the development of the band as it went along.
Yeah.
And somebody would say, we had a bit of problem at that time, somebody was a bit awkward, and somebody would put their hand up and say, yeah, that was me. I really dug my heels in on that, and I was wrong. And I had to give in the end. But they were all doing it. They were all owning up to when they'd been difficult and things haven't gone well.
Well, they just seem like a very, very sensible bunch of people. I mean, they're not Motorhead, are they?
Oh, no. But the other thing that stunned me was, apart from Phil Collins, they all came from one school, all from Charterhouse.
Right,
School.
yeah.
And so they were school buddies, and they were getting nowhere till they co-opted Phil Collins, who was a professional, and straightened them out.
Is that right?
And they all put their hands up to it, and they said, Phil was a professional, he knew what he was doing, and he sorted it out. We would have been nothing if he hadn't joined us. And it was so open and so friendly and so convivial, because you get other bands where they're interviewed.
Oh, hate each other. Yeah. Well, and they won't even be in the same room as each other.
No, and it was lovely to actually watch the cooperation, the appreciation, and then they helped each other when they did solo projects.
So, what's the name of this? What's the name of this documentary?
Genesis, Some of the Parts.
Some of the Parts, right?
Which I think was an album title as well. But,
was it?
But yeah, it was quite heartwarming that this group of people who'd been together for like 50 years were still able to, as you say, to sit in a room together and laugh and joke about the good times, the bad times.
Well, I was never really that much into Genesis, because I think when it sort of mattered in my youth, I was more of a Pink Floyd person than a Genesis person, because that was when Peter Gabriel was leading Genesis, and it was all a bit twee for me, a bit too English country garden-ish.
They were trying to be different when he was in charge.
Yeah.
Everything had to be different and revolutionary, and they couldn't just do good music. And when he left, it changed, because Phil Collins, again, was like the professional who said, look, if we want to be a success, we need to do what public wants, not what we want to do.
Well, I know this might sound controversial, but I prefer Phil Collins' Genesis to Peter Gabriel Genesis.
What?
Yeah, I know.
I quite agree with you. I didn't like Genesis until Peter Gabriel left, and then I became a bit of a fan.
Well, there you go.
So we agree.
All right. Well, I'll put it on my Christmas watch list. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, Mike. 0345 6060 973. The best Genesis album is, in fact, Duke. And that is the correct answer. Chris says, why did... no, I think I've read that one. Ryan says, I want to know the name of the person who recommended Norman Wisdom's Taylor to Rishi Sunak. Yeah, that's right. We want the name of the person. And Brian says, you complain about the water companies, but we've had some of the biggest fatbergs in the world in our London sewers. Stop talking the country down, mate. That's right. No country on earth has had bigger fatbergs than us. We actually used to have one running the country.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
You can believe that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC.
'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the kitchen, guests were happily sipping the drinks that I'd mixed them. With a selection of tonics from Fever Tree, everyone was given their favourite G&T. It is, after all, the best time of the year that deserves special drinks, not just wine or beer. So this holiday season, mix with the best with Fever Tree tonics for you and your guests. Please enjoy responsibly.
Prosecco. A magical Christmas with Lidl means calling it fizz before 12 and bubbly after. Get yours for a sparkling $4.75 down from $5.75. Only when you download the Lidl Plus app. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. T's and C's apply. See lidl.co.uk/CP 18+ GB only.
Hey, Harry. Hello, mate. Got any tips for the boxing later? Your best bet is to head over to Bet Victor. But did I ever tell you I used to spar with the big Billy Bulldozer? You boxed with the big Billy Bulldozer? No, don't be daft. I just used to go to spar with him. That man loved a manicure and those hands. Massive. Let me tell you, I never seen a boxer with ugly hands. They're the money makers after all. Got to look after them, don't they? Anyway, got to go, pal. Listen to Harry and make your best bet on the boxing at Bet Victor. 18 plus, be gamble aware.
A magical Christmas with Lidl means putting on a deluxe spread that keeps even the turkey naysayers in good spirits. A stuffed sea bass or mulled wine baked gammon joint, each just $9.99. And an Olive Magazine award-winning vegan sausage and cranberry wreath for $4.99. In store now. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability. Selected stores GB only.
Wrapping presents. Before you try and find the end of the tape, again, take time to treat yourself at McDonald's. Introducing the Big and Cheesy, with or without bacon. 100% beef patty, delicious cheese sauce, crispy onions, even more cheese sauce, and a freshly toasted snowflake bun. Available until the 3rd of January. Served from 11 a.m, participating restaurants only, subject to availability.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
A big sack of monkey nuts. Just to put it into perspective, the amount of sewage dumped into the Thames would equate to sewage flowing over the Niagara Falls for 42 straight minutes. Or, to put it another way, that Thames water sewage figure works out at 2,739,726 litres per hour for 3 years. Wow. That is too much bleeping perspective, that is. Let's have West Midlands, Ranjit.
Nick, you all right, mate?
Yes, super. Thanks for asking.
Good. Well, a couple of few things, yeah. First of all, like next week, obviously, we break up from work, so if I don't get on, I want to wish everybody a nice festive season and hope to speak to all you guys in the new year if I don't get on next week.
Okay, yeah.
And the other one, the reason why there's tomato plants at the sewage works?
Because it goes straight through you.
That's it. You've got it in one. Okay. One more.
Which makes me not want to eat tomatoes ever again.
Yeah, you know what? I've always wondered when people have salad, they say, can you hold the tomatoes all the time? That was the most thing, yeah?
Hold them with tongs away from your body.
Yeah. And there was one quick one as well. Rishi Sunak, has gone to meet the far-right leaders in Italy.
That's right.
You know what? I'm just surprised that they haven't had, people in the audience saying, you go back to your own country. And then you'd have to be thinking about, should I go back to India because I'm halfway there? You know what I mean? Nick, there's 3 types of racist people, yeah? You've got the ones that run and start swearing to you across the road and use the P word and the N word, yeah? Mm-hmm. Those are the dinglings, yeah? And then you have people who I know who will sit and talk to you and they really get themselves in a pickle, like the caller you had last night, from Malta. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He says I'm 71 years old and I can tell you why we vote Conservative.
Right.
Okay. I know this woman and she is thick, really thick. And a couple of years ago, I'm sitting on the wall outside my shop. She comes to me, she says, Ranjit, you know something? I says, what? She goes, I've lived in this area all my life, yeah? I says, yeah. She goes, and I hate this area. And I know where she's going, and I like to get inside these people's heads, yeah? She goes, what do you mean? I won't mention her name, right? But I goes, what do you mean? She goes, well, this area. I says, yeah, but what about this area? Come on, spill it out. She goes, well, it belongs all to the white man. I says, yeah. I says, the same white man that used to open their shops, right, at 9 o'clock in the morning, shut at 11, have a 2-3 hour lunch, and then open for a couple of hours, charge you lots and lots of money. I said, these poor guys open at 6 o'clock in the morning, right, till 10 at night, give you good value for money. She goes, I goes, hang on. I said, look at me. I said, look at me. It was in the summer. I said, look at my skin. She goes, well, I only use your shop because I have to, because if I want to go to shop, I have to go to, I said, well...
I'd shortchange her on the chips if I were you, next time around.
I just told her straight. I said, listen, don't bother coming to my shop, right? I said, go up there. And I said, if you want to go to the local, store, and buy frozen chips, make sure an ethnic doesn't serve you,
Well, and the best of luck with that. Hang on.
And the other thing, these people who got grandchildren now, who are in their 70s, have actually ethnically cleansed themselves and they've got mixed race children. So these people then run away to Malta and places like that because they can't face all the bigoted people that they used to know when they're going to walk around with their grandchild or their great-grandchild. And, he's not exactly... I mean, I'm not being racist or anything. There's
ethnically cleansed themselves.
Cleansed.
Right,
Yes.
OK. Leave us with that thought. All right, thanks a lot, Ranger. 0345 6060 973. Julie says, I've got a new name for Rishi Sunak following his continued claims of I don't recall, I can't remember the COVID hearing. Rishi Amnesiac. I'm not sure that works, Julie. Good effort, though. Kevin says, if names got you jobs, then Jacob Rees-Smug could be back in the cabinet looking after our environment. Oh, see, I said it wrong. I said smug, but he said smog, which is... another listener with material.
Oh, no.
That's really bad, Kevin. I think 2 in a row on the Nicky Abbott show. Mia says, do you think that Rishi Sunak is going to draft a new policy to stop the turtles from reaching our coast? Stop the turtles. That's OK. 3 in a row. Let's see what this one's like. Ian says, a friend of mine back in the 1960s was walking along by Harrods when she spotted Peter Cook walking towards her. She was overwhelmed, but as they got closer, Peter Cook mirrored her reaction to her seeing him.
The British teenager Alex Babb.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault. She was overwhelmed, but as they got closer, Peter Cook mirrored her reaction to her seeing him by pretending to be overwhelmed by seeing her. Yeah. It must be weird being famous, don't you think? I mean, everywhere you go, people know you, but you don't know who they are. But they think that they have a relationship with you because you have... Or no, I don't mean a sensual relationship.
Disgusting.
But they think they know you because you've been in their living room on their telly. In fact, depending on what kind of job you do on TV, they could have spent more time with you than close members of their family. Like if you're on EastEnders or the other one, Coronation Street, for instance. You're in their living room all the time, more often than their cat. So it just must be so weird that everywhere you go, people are just staring at you all the time. God, I'd hate that. I would actually absolutely hate that. I couldn't imagine it. I just couldn't imagine it. Awful. York, hello, Jan.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
Good. Whenever you mention Michael Fabricant, it always reminds me of something that happened when I was at work. This would be about 30 years ago. And the girl I was working with sneezed.
Oh.
And I said, oh, Wendy, you nearly blew my wig off. And from across the room, a sarcastic voice came, phew, who on earth would spend money on a wig like that?
Oh.
And I wasn't even wearing a wig, it was my hair.
Blimey.
I know. So whenever you say that, it just makes me think of that.
You should have been straight down to HR, Jan. But of course, in those days, they didn't have anything like HR, did they?
We didn't have one, no. And, you don't watch adverts, do you?
I don't. No, and every time I do, I'm quite surprised at their content. I mean, and the only time that I would watch an advert... I'm trying to think of when that would happen. When I'm over at my mum's place and she insists on watching live television, despite I've told her about 1 million times to record it and watch it later, but no.
Well, I see them quite often, so I must be like your mum.
Right.
But I saw one quite recently. It was for... Can I say what it was for?
Yes.
Dolmio.
Oh, yeah.
It's spaghetti sauce or something like that.
Right.
And one of the characters in there, he's got a hair made out of spaghetti. So that, again, reminds me of Max Fabricant.
Really?
Yeah.
So it does look like plastic spaghetti, doesn't it?
Well, it does look most peculiar, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Or it looks like somebody's lit a huge candle on top of his head and just let it burn down and drip.
My God.
Drip all over his head.
What do you think is a wig?
I can't believe that it would be, because it just... No one would make a wig like that. There wouldn't be a company on earth that would deliberately make a wig that looks like that. There can't.
Well, you can buy cheap ones, can't you? That.
It can't be that bad. I mean, he must be worth a bit of money. I mean, he makes like 80 grand a year plus $250,000 in expenses if he chooses to use them. You must be able to put your piece on expenses. I bet you can find some way of doing it. So no, it can't be.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
It is very odd.
Yeah.
But parliamentarians and politicians in general, their relationship with their hair is just very, very strange.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I mean, his relationship with his hair is he uses his hair, Boris Johnson, as a deflector shield in order to try and kid on that he's, charming and somewhat helpless. It brings out people's mothering instincts. And you can see it every time he walks into a room. People just... or onto their tellies. They just think, like he's unable to tie his shoes together. And so you want to spit in your hand and smooth his hair down.
Oh, well, I wouldn't want to do that. And someone mentioned the Christmas cards, didn't they, earlier on?
Yeah.
Why on earth would they print Christmas cards with themselves on? Who wants to receive one of those?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, who the hell wants to see Rishi Sunak on the front of a Christmas card? You don't want to put that on your mantelpiece, for crying out loud.
Did you see Boris Johnson's?
No.
Well, he's on a ladder decorating a Christmas tree, dressed up as Santa.
Oh, that sounds like a health and safety fail.
Oh, it's blooming awful. I mean, if you received one like that, you wouldn't put it on the mantelpiece, would you?
No, you put it straight in the fire.
Or as a recycle bin.
Yeah, that's right. Not the fire. That is right. Trying to save the planet here. Yeah, not the fire, the recycle bin. That's right. Yeah, good point there, Jan. Right. Yeah, nice save right at the end there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good work. Cheers, Jan.
Okay.
Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. What's this?
Lembit Opic did actually expense for a wig.
The Liberal Democrat housing spokesman. When was this? 2007. The Liberal Democrat housing spokesman submitted a receipt for the mother of all wigs, which cost £19.99, and a £9.99 film star wig. The party items were bought by a volunteer and charged by Lembit Opic in June 2007 under his authority for the reimbursement of expenses to a non-salaried individual. In the claim, which does not appear to have been challenged by the fees officer and was published, the wigs were described as sundry costs incurred while supporting a charitable event, brackets, receipts attached. Well, we are sadly in want of somebody of the calibre of Lembit Opic being one of our elected representatives. We'll just have to struggle by without him. And on the subject of Tichi Sunak's questionable testimony recently in front of the COVID inquiry, Garth texts, if Tricky Ricky had lost all of his WhatsApps, why did he go to court to stop them becoming public? Yeah. Curious that. Why would you do that? Very, very strange. And nobody asked him that at the COVID inquiry, by the way. I think, overall, I'm quite impressed with the lawyering, but I am occasionally, on the seldom occasions that I've been watching it, yelling at the TV at the questions that I think they should be answering, while lashing them as they receive their inquisition. Thank you, sir. May I have another? 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 12:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
How may I help you?
How may I help you? I wish to be of assistance. 0345 6060 973. Becky says, Brian Nash, out of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, is now a celebrant. He married me and my husband in 2021. It was his first wedding because COVID hit after he started. Oh, I see. It was his fault. Thanks a lot, Brian Nash, out of Frankie Goes to Hollywood. See what you've done? Which one was Brian Nash out of Frankie Goes to Hollywood? I'm going to have to look that one up. One moment, please. Really? Okay. Simon says, sorry, mate, you're way off the mark on that one. Duke was good, but there are several albums that are better, and the best of all was Selling England by the Pound. Is the wrong answer. Islington. Hello, Nicholas.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Nick. About the tomatoes.
Tomatoes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a strict Buddhist. And what we do, I'm in Islington, and what we do, we eat what we want to grow. All right?
You eat what you want to grow?
Yes. Right. Obviously, we don't eat meat. And then what we do, when we want to go toilet, we go to the garden, dig a little hole.
Oh.
Go to the little hole, put the soil back on, have a wee over the top. And you do that random spots all around the garden, eating random foods.
Yeah.
And then whatever grows, that's what you eat.
That's what you eat, right.
It's great. It's recycling. It's best.
Well, as for your invite for dinner over at your place, I'll bring my own food, if that's okay.
As long as you don't bring meat. Well, you can bring meat as long as you ain't killed it yourself,
right?
Or paid someone else to kill it, or seen it being killed. You can eat meat and be a Buddhist.
Okay, so if it's alive, that's fine.
Yeah, I've seen that on telly where they're eating live fish. You know, they cut a sleeve off the fish in Japan.
Oh.
You pick the fish that you like a piece of. They take it out of the tank, and he gets a really sharp, like little samurai sword, and cuts us like a piece of smoked salmon off it, and then he puts it back in the tank.
Back in the tank.
Puts it back in the tank. You know.
Well, that's awful. Fish are people too, you know.
Fish have feelings. You know, I've kept fish. They're lovely things. Fish
well,
are lovely.
I don't know. You can't really have a relationship with a fish.
They recognise you. They know you. When you walk to the tank, they get excited. They know
it. They do not recognise you.
They do. They know when you're going to feed them. They know when you're happy, when you're sad, or when you're a bit depressed and you don't feed them on time, and they get a bit wary and a bit scared.
Yeah. No, I understand that they would see this shape coming towards them and they would recognise that as being a source of food. But I very much doubt that they can. They
recognise you. Honestly, Nick, they recognise you. They see you coming, and they all come up to the same spot, just for the little bits of pellets or flakes, whatever you're feeding them. And then what you do, you keep them for a while, and then you take them to a nice little lake, you know, in Leafy Forest. It's called the Bomb Hole. You wouldn't know it was there unless you've been taken there previously. It's a jungle to get through to it, and then what you do, you put all the fish in a bomb hole,
and then they die. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Nicholas. What did he call it? Did I mishear, or if I didn't, then bomb hole, bomb hole. Is that what that was? Right. Because you wouldn't want to make that mistake. And the fish really, really wouldn't want you to make that mistake. Chris says, I wonder if anybody listening works for the water company and what's the strangest thing that's been flushed down the sewer? Yeah, well, if they are, keep it to yourself. We don't wish to know. Jim texts, you're going to have to start doing your homework. What? Because you are making too many mistakes. Me? The best Genesis album is The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. It's a masterpiece, although it probably wouldn't sound any good on your 87-bit surround digital processed YRS computerized sound system. Analog is best, says Jim. No. Duke. All the way. Duke. It just definitely is. That's just a fact. And I'm not prepared to discuss it any further. I'm sorry if that makes me sound like a fascist, but that's just the facts, Jack. Peterborough, Maurice.
Nick, good morning.
I've just realised why I'm not a Buddhist anyway. That's one thing for sure.
Yes.
And yes, of course you're a fascist, and that's why people listen to you. And just keep it going. There is no issue with any of that.
Right. All. I didn't think so.
No, you knew it wasn't. End of.
Yes.
So you are absolute about this. Sunak, all I've got to say about him is, look at his name. Take the A out of Sunak, and you finish up with Sunk, and that is what he's going to be without trace after next election.
Well, if you take the U out, you get Snack.
Not the way that I would spell it, and I would deign to suggest that eating something spelt that way might be just as bad as what was just discussed.
Oh, well, you can deign all you like, mate.
Thank you so much.
It doesn't make it so. All right, thanks a lot, Maurice. 0345 6060 973. Paul says, all I'm learning from this COVID inquiry is that quite a few people in positions of power and influence can't use smartphones. All of their messages keep getting accidentally deleted, and I'm worrying that their memory has been shot to bits. They can't recall anything. Yeah, that's right. I'm sure they're all telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Liar! Alex says, I'd recognise you in the street any time. The only exception might be if Louis Walsh passed me on Sydenham High Street and I mistook him for you. Obviously, you're much funnier and better looking, but my eyesight is awful these days. I don't look at anything like Louis Walsh. Dave says, we were in Amsterdam with my mother-in-law and it was pouring with rain. She had a large umbrella which spiked a woman's wig, which was left hanging off the umbrella. The woman was furious, not as much as losing a wig, but at us in fits of laughter. I always think of this when I see Michael Fabricant. Hey, you know what? I haven't got around to talking about Hazza and Sparkles yet because we've been, too busy dealing with the issues. But that is just a cross I'll have to bear. I might be able to squeeze it in a minute. Southwark, hello, Luke.
Hello. Is that Nick?
Yes, Luke.
So if you take out the B's and the K and add like a S and a C, you get fascist or something. I don't know. Anyway, you said that fish were people too. I don't think that's correct. But I do want to ask about this whole sewerage thing. I think those figures include the storm drainage as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's all sewerage because it's a mix of both whatever's.
Oh, it's like a cocktail.
Yeah, a cocktail of nonsense, exactly. But that's the thing. So I've been trying to find the data on this, so I could, sound all smart on the radio.
Right.
But I cannot find it. So it does beg the question: where are these numbers coming from? I don't really understand.
Well, the numbers that I just gave you were from the actual outflow measuring instruments that seriously underestimate the amount that's going because many of them aren't operating. They don't work.
And if they're not operating, then how can they get numbers?
Well, the numbers are from those that are operating, which implies that the situation is much worse than what has previously been explained. But
so they don't actually measure the flow. They only measure no, they don't. They only measure the time, the amount of time that there's an open and a closed. There's nothing to do with the amount of flow. That's why there's been calls to increase the measuring capability.
Right.
So the flow is just an estimation. I guess this is why.
But if they're estimating from the measurement instruments that they have that it's 29,000 swimming pools worth of raw sewage that has been pumped.
Though. It's not.
Hang on a minute. Wait a minute. If they are estimating that it is 29,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of raw sewage, then even if they're out by, let's say, 50%, that's still a heck of a lot of raw sewage that's going straight into the Thames.
But it's not. That's what I'm saying. First of all, it's a combination. It's the cocktail of nonsense, as we just discussed. So we don't know how much is raw sewage and how much is actual storm drainage. And secondly, like I said, it's not actually measuring volume at all. There's no measurements of volume. That's why they're calling for increases to the capabilities of the monitoring devices so that they can measure volume. All they measure at the moment is when there is like a tap turn on and a tap turn off. There's nothing about the amount of volume.
But you're not listening to me. Even if they were out by 50%, that's still a massive amount.
How do you get to that number if you don't know what the volume is? How do you get to that?
Well, the inference is that they don't know what it is because you say they don't know. They say they do know. And I'm more inclined to believe them than you because I don't know who you are. I mean, you sound like a shill for the water companies to me, but I could be wrong. You don't work for a PR company, do you, by any chance? 0345 6060 973. And the excuses that the water companies often give is that, it's because of periods of intense flooding. You know, that it's pouring down with rain, and it's all going to back up, and it's going to go into people's toilets, and it'll be flooding their bathrooms with hot, delicious sewage. And if you follow the Twitter account of Fergal Sharkey, who is doing excellent work in this regard, we appreciate it, Fergal Sharkey.
Thank you.
And then you'll see that on days that are bone dry in this country, that have been preceded by days that are bone dry, not a drop of rain anywhere, we're still completely surrounded by these overflows. So if it's not rain, what is it if it isn't sewage? Exactly. Sandra says, I once saw Eric Morecambe in a battered old VW smoking his pipe as usual. Without thinking, I waved at him and he waved back as if he knew who I was. And did you know that did you know that Limp Bizkit, as most people referred to him, married one of the cheeky girls? Now I'm showing my age. Limpet Obick. Whatever his name is. Limp Bizkit. Why would they refer to him as that? Right, there's two competing thoughts there, Sandra. But yes, you wave to... You often find yourself reacting to somebody who is famous as though you know them personally, but you can't quite place where you know them from. So, oh, hi, yeah, and then you think afterwards, oh, God, it's that bloke off the telly. I didn't meet him at a paper conference in Reading the other day. He's been in my living room 3 times a week on EastEnders. Yeah, it just must be quite weird being famous. And I guess the weirdest thing would be that if you are very famous, like if you were on Coronation Street or EastEnders, but you weren't famous enough to be worth enough to insulate yourself from people who want to wave at you in your Morris Minor. Like Tom Cruise, for instance, is super duper famous, but he's got enough money to create a wall around himself whenever he wants one. Ditto, I suppose, Hazard and Sparkles, who I still haven't got around to talking about, because we've been dealing with this, the hot sewage issue.
Disgusting.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
We are running late. Alexandra texts, so that Buddhist geezer who doesn't eat meat advocates mutilating a pet fish for a swift nibble and then dropping its carcass back in the water. I'm not sure that that's what he was actually saying. I can't be 100% certain, but I don't think that was a fair summation of what he was proposing. No. Let's have a call in Bermondsey. John.
Yes, good evening. Good morning, I suppose.
Yes, John.
Your discussion about the Thames water and the sewage overflows into the River Thames, and an earlier caller who said, "Oh, there's no way of knowing how much, if there's any, and what have you." But I'm afraid that I hate to, go against any of your previous callers. But it is a simple fact of the matter that we have what's known as a dual drainage system, whereby our sewage and the wastewater that goes through our sinks and our kitchen sinks and what have you, all join together, along with the rainwater that goes into the system from the roads. And if it gets too much, i.e. because it's very heavy rains, then the system simply cannot cope with the volume.
Right.
Because the piping work was built 100 and God knows how many years ago.
Yes.
And so what we have as a result, instead of what's known as backup, which is just too vile to even contemplate, because it involves it coming back into your loo, your bathroom. Yeah.
Yes.
What we have is an escape outlet, which is a whole sequence of pipeworks all the way down the River Thames, from the very mouth of the Thames into the Thames Estuary and the North Sea, right the way down to places like Twickenham and further west to Berkshire. And as soon as the system is up to a level, it automatically pumps out excess into the rivers of the waterworks.
Right.
Rather than, and that is obviously, because mostly on normal occasions with normal volumes, that will go to water treatment works, i.e. sewage treatment works, and be broken down and purified, and so forth. But if it goes straight to the Thames, it ain't gone anywhere near it.
Yes, it's just neat.
And so it's raw, neat, you name it.
Yes.
And I happen, along with anyone who lives on the river itself, to live very close to one of these. They're interspersed by about a mile and a half each distance. There's a massive engineering project underway called the Thames Tideway Tunnel.
That's right.
To take the outlets and send them to a sewage treatment works, but it's still under construction.
That's right. There's, if we're world leaders in anything, it's the production of that. So we'll need a much, much bigger pipe.
Yeah, well, it's like the Jaws movie, isn't it? We'll need a bigger pipe, we'll need a bigger boat or whatever. But the fact is that 90% of the outflow of untreated sewage that occurs frequently, really very regularly, frighteningly regularly.
Yes.
And that's legal. I mean, the stuff that we're getting confused with Thames. Sometimes what they do is when they're not allowed to put stuff into certain rivers and sub-rivers, and they've been found guilty of doing so and falsifying their figures and so on, they've gone to court and been fined and had massive punishments put upon them. That is true.
Yeah, not massive punishments. They just take it
not
as...
compared to their profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything, and as soon as they get charged a £70 million fine, they'll just stick it on the bill. But, yeah.
It's the price of doing business. Yeah.
Unfortunately. And they used to be, obviously, a publicly owned, as did all water companies, a publicly owned resource.
Yes.
As
it is in every other country in the world, apart from this one.
Unfortunately. And they're dealing with two things, neither of which cost any money at all. Rainfall, water, which drops out of the sky, and human waste, which comes out of us, and yet they make very handsome profits out of it. I don't have any time to Thames water, don't get me wrong, but I would say that these outflows are definitely sewage. Anyone who thinks that they're not is crazy.
Yeah. Plus, they don't only vent into rivers and onto beaches during periods of high rainfall. They vent when it hasn't actually rained at all. So there's a fundamental problem with the infrastructure that has not been fixed since we gave these companies away to private enterprise, and the pound signs are lit up in their eyes, and they couldn't believe their luck.
Yes, I mean, the reason why those and they are offences, by the way, if we can prove them, which is hard, but if the Environment Agency gets the samples and so forth, why they occur is because Thames Water and or any other water authority around the country intentionally let them sluice out into these streams and rivers and lakes and what have you, because their treatment works aren't working up to scratch.
Yeah.
Because they won't invest the money to upgrade them to cope with volumes.
Well, how can they invest the money when they have given it all to their chief executives and their shareholders? Yeah.
Well, you nailed it on the head there. I mean, they don't spend a penny before they've rewarded all their shareholders with massive dividends.
It's just amazing that we're sitting here and allowing this to happen. Well, I've got detailed files on their salaries. Leave it with me. Excellent work there. Thanks a lot, John. Water company bosses pocketed a record £10 million in salaries last year.
What?
£10 million in salaries. Sums paid to chief executives in the water industry soared by £876,000 last year compared to the year before. 5 chief executives turned down their bonuses last year, but a further £9.7 million in bonuses were paid to water industry chief executives.
Oh, fabulous.
United Utilities, which discharged the most sewage into waterways, according to the Environment Agency, paid out the most base pay to its executives last year, £1.6 million. Severn Trent, who discharged 45,000 times last year, paid £3.5 million in bonuses to 2 people. In bonuses? For what? 2 firms, Anglian Water and Northumbrian Water, increased the amount they paid out on bonuses year on year. Anglian Water, who missed their Ofwat pollution targets, paid their 2 executives £60,000 more compared to last year. Did you, dear listener, get a £60,000 pay rise?
No.
The water industry is under fire, it says this is from the Mail last month. The water industry is under fire for pouring sewage into waterways as well as imposing summer hose... Yeah, that's the other thing they do. Yeah. Imposing hosepipe bans and dishing out lavish executive pay and siphoning off billions of pounds in dividend payments to shareholders. I mean, I do believe that we have reached peak Tory. They overcharge for something we can't do without, which is the very essence of life itself, for which they were gifted a monopoly by the Tories, and their response was to say, wow, can't believe it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And they took our money and they gave it to themselves. And if the infrastructure they were responsible for couldn't keep up with handling the waste element of the business, they simply just poured it into our rivers and seas. Problem solved. God, what a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Now, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can listen on catch-up on Global Player, which you will need if you want to listen after the event to the A to Z of 2023, which starts on Christmas Eve. The shows will be put up the internet as a podcast only on Global Player. If you haven't got it, you can get it for free from your app store or globalplayer.com. It's got all the radio stations you need and as many podcasts as could last you from now until the end of time. Global Player. And if you've got one of those stupid smart speakers, the magic phrase for this show is play Nick Abbott, the whole show podcast. I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock with my Abnormal Normal show. Coming up at 4 on LBC, Ollie Dugmore. But first, Clyde Bull. 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 But first, Clyde Bull.